What's going on, Neon Nation? Welcome back to the Neon Arcade for part 5 of our Q&A series. Let's get right into it. Demarcus Paris asks, I know V has no set race, so will they take other ethnicities' hairstyle into consideration for customization? I don't want my black character to have white people hair, style, and texture. So if you guys remember the 48-minute demo, essentially in the character creator screen, there was some ethnicity options at the very top. On the top right hand side, there was an Asian lady. I believe they were all females. So there was an Asian lady, there was a black lady, and she did have the hair that a black character would have. If you look into some of the other trailers and stuff that CD Projekt Red has released, we have a big character here called Dexter Deshawn. He's a fixer. Obviously you can look to him and he has that style of hair as well, so I wouldn't really worry about that. There'll probably be a ton of character creation options. They've expanded it since E3, so I wouldn't worry about that. You'll definitely have that option. 84 Impala Guy asks, will having relationships have unexpected paths of its own? More specifically children. It would be crazy if 2/3 through the game everything's going well and then an NPC you've been dating drops the bombshell, I'm pregnant. Would you have the options to decide whether to keep it or terminate it, give it up for adoption, raise it yourself? Now I want to kind of address this question because I want to make mention that you guys should keep your expectations in check. CD Projekt Red has mentioned that this is not a real life simulator. This is an open world RPG, and yes, there are options. There's a lot of, storytelling going on. There's a lot of NPC interaction, but pregnancy and, having kids, and I've been asked questions about getting married and stuff like this. You guys have to remember that these things are hard to implement, and they don't really, I wouldn't wager to assume most people would want this in the game. I could be wrong, but again, this is not a real life simulator. This is an open world RPG. You're gonna go do mercenary missions, stuff like that. Now these elements might be in the story, but will you have to choose to give it up for adoption or raise it yourself? I would wager to bet that you won't be able to do something like that. DrLeo asks, what is the state of censorship? Is character creation full frontal nudity removed? So we had a podcast the other day where we invited Night City Life, Andre from Night City Life. He runs a Cyberpunk 2077 fan site, and he went to EGX Berlin, which I believe was the last stop for CD Projekt Red on their kind of world tour. And he made mention that when it comes to Germany, they're very sensitive about games and movies and stuff like that, and they censor a lot of things. But he sat down with, I forget who it was from the dev team, but they said not to worry, and that in Germany it'll get an 18+ rating. And so if we kind of extrapolate that into North America, where rules are a little bit more lax, I think censorship should be something that we don't necessarily have to worry about right now. They've made mention about region-based censorship, of course, Australia and Japan being the two ones that are kind of iffy. I wouldn't worry for now, unless you're in Australia or Japan, obviously, and maybe the Middle East, I believe was mentioned. So I'll be keeping my eye out on that though. So stay tuned, and we'll get to the bottom of it. Barny Miggo asks, do you think multiplayer might have the potential to be GTA 5 styled? For example, people just running around and gunning down other players, or like doing co-op missions, and when you finish them, you'll just be put back into the open world with your friends to free roam or drive to another quest. Do you think it'll have something like matches with rounds? Also, when they said they have lots of hours of music, what's your take on that? Obviously, the soundtrack will be a lot larger than The Witcher 3's, but how many hours in your opinion are there? 3, 5, 7, maybe even more? So this is a little bit of a tricky one, because I think anything short of a GTA Online experience for Cyberpunk 2077 is kind of not going to be good enough to match the single player RPG experience, because this is a huge open world. I think if you jump from an open world to maybe round based TDM and scale it down, it's gonna feel a little bit weird. So I think a GTA Online experience where you're interacting in that same city is going to be more seamless. It's going to be an easier transition. It's going to be a more meaningful transition for a lot of players. And the longevity of the game, you guys know how GTA Online is. You can do literally anything you want. There's a big role-playing community within that. I think Cyberpunk 2077 is going to head towards that. They might introduce some new innovative concepts, which I'd love to see. So I think, yeah, that's the natural evolution of multiplayer games, especially when they're tied to open world RPGs. Now when it comes to music, I'm honestly really not sure how many hours it's going to be. We've heard a big variety. There's obviously, Samurai the rock band, there's a bunch of radio stations in your vehicles that you can, you know, browse through. There's going to be a variety of genres, so I think it's going to feel relatively similar to The Witcher 3 in that there's a lot of variety, but there's some repetition in moments that need those same tracks to be playing. Jay Roomlin asks, do you think there'll be a mission/quest where Jackie will take V to meet his gang, the Valentinos? Yeah, absolutely. I think they have a fully fledged Valentinos poster on the CDPR store. Now obviously they probably wouldn't want to sell something that's not reflective of their game, and this is we can see a lot of Valentinos members here, so I think this is going to be an element of the game. It'll might even be a part of the main quest line. We don't know, but yeah, for sure I think that's going to happen. Martin C says, good morning. Do you think there will be consequences for killing bosses, more consequences for letting them live, or balance between the both? Do you think a lot of lore will be explained throughout the game, or will we need to do further research like rewatching all your lore videos? That's a really interesting question because, you know, balancing sparing bosses or, you know, killing them or killing enemies or NPCs I think that's something that they're looking into. I think that's something they have to look into because you don't want to have all these, you know, booming repercussions for you just slaughtering everybody, right? And not having any for sparing them. So I think there will be a balance there. Second part of the question, I think a lot of the lore will be explained throughout the game, but obviously if you have, you know, knowledge from Cyberpunk 2020 or you're watching my videos or Mad Queen's videos about lore, you're gonna get a lot more out of it than you would if you didn't know these things, right? So there might be some hidden references within the game. There might be, you know, little homages to people who played the tabletop game or know about the lore, things like that. So you definitely benefit from brushing up on lore before the game comes out. The Haynesman asks, have there been negative reactions to the feel of gunplay and driving in the game? If so, what have those been? Is the game more of an RPG first and shooter second? So the game is classified as an RPG first and a shooter second. So I think they've said it's an RPG with shooter elements, which really makes sense. Let's not call this an FPS or anything like that. And there have been some negative reactions to the gunplay and driving, mainly it looking stiff. I don't think anybody's gone hands-on with the game yet. That will happen in early 2020 as far as I know. But I think there's still a lot of time for them to, well, not a lot of time, but there's time for them to iterate. We don't know how old that deep dive build was. And so I think you can only judge it when you have it in your hands, when you're actually playing it. But obviously we want it to be as good as possible. So hopefully it does play pretty good. Kaplan X asks, what other augments do you hope to see in the game? Personally, I want to see an arm cannon. Me personally, I just want to see Mr. Stud. I think that would be the funniest one. You could just meme around with that one. So if you guys don't know what Mr. Stud is, Google is your friend on this one. Carl Livingston asks, I have a good idea of the benefits of the Netrunner and solo, but what are the benefits of a pure techie class? So we aren't really sure at this moment. We don't have a lot of information about techies. But the flathead will be a huge part of the techie playstyle, so you can attack enemies, you can collect gear, you can craft easier, you can override hardware and stuff like that. So that will be a big part of the techie class, utilizing your flathead bot, and obviously crafting is going to be a big element of that as well. Faya says, I've seen the 45-minute demo at PGW, it's impressive but not perfect. Still some bugs or glitches here and there. I'm confident all will be solved and the game will be ready at launch. I trust CDPR to make a great game. I just wonder how much work is still left and what they're currently working on these days. I'd say it's safe to assume that they're in the polishing stage. We have maybe 5.5 months until launch, but the game has to be ready and you know, they have to print copies of it. The game has to go gold before then. So I think they have a good maybe solid 3 months of, you know, polishing left to do. So I think that's what they're really focusing on right now. Lynn asks, just curious, will we be able to join the gangs in the Cyberpunk universe and can we be the boss of them? I don't think anything has changed about that. We won't be able to join gangs or factions. We're more of a lone wolf, lone ranger kind of character, and we can work for gangs and factions, but we can't actually join them. Phoenix Rewa says, you didn't even answer 3 of our questions. More than half the video goes with your own stupid opinions. Make a real Q&A video. Well, Phoenix, I have this to say to you.
Come on, lighten up. Have a whiff. Better.
Anthony Mabeka says, do you think we'll get a new trailer at the VGAs? I'd say so. I think in my infinite mathematical wisdom, we probably have like an 85% chance of that happening. the VGAs are getting bigger and bigger each year, so I think, you know, it's natural to end the year with a bang and get a nice trailer at the VGAs. Dude Player 10111, what is the estimated install size? So as far as I know, the minimum is 80 gigabytes, but that's just the minimum. Game Notes asks, when do you think they'll be showing more in-game music, and why do you think they haven't already? Way before I heard about the video game, I always knew that there was more to the dark future than synthwave. I do like synthwave, all I'm asking is why the secret. I can hear Watch Dogs 3 stuff and Beyond Good and Evil music, and they don't even have a firm release date. Well, supposedly they're going to be releasing more singles off the Samurai EP, but I think new music will naturally come with more trailers and game content that they drop. Obviously that's going to be in the background playing, you know, as they're showing gameplay or whatever it may be. But I mean, I'd wager they want to keep some of it a surprise too, so, and I think experiencing music for the first time in-game in like a cool action sequence or whatever is probably something that they want players to experience, so I think they'll be keeping most of it a secret. Thank you guys for watching, thank you guys for asking questions. I'll do this again sometime, maybe I'll do it live. I think that would probably be easier for you guys and for me, so take it easy, have a good one. And for everything Cyberpunk 2077, join Neon Nation by subscribing to your boy, The Neon Arcade.